Hey everybody, this is Ryan with One Board Family, and it's that time of year where we discuss our top 10 games of the previous year. In 2022, there were so many amazing releases. Actually, I had a really hard time narrowing it down to just 10. I actually created a blog that talks about 5 honorable mentions that really, I struggled not to have them in that top 10, but there's only so many spaces. So you can find my 5 honorable mentions in the blog called So Close down in the description below. Be sure to check that out to find 5 more games that were amazing and released in this year. So let's talk about my top 10 games of 2022. First up at number 10. Creature Comforts is an absolutely phenomenal family game from Kids Table Board Gaming. And what was so crazy about this one is that it is such a, evergreen title for us. It's a game that my entire family enjoys. It's a game that we play with my brother and sister-in-law and family members when they come over. This game, I had forgotten that it was released in 2022 until about November when I was making my list and working on where everything should be placed. And when I remembered, I was like, oh man, this was a 2022 release. It feels like it's been a member of the family for so long because it's such a solid game. In Creature Comforts, each player has a family of animals that are preparing for the winter months. You basically place your family members around the village and you're collecting goods so that you can make things like you can make toys, you can make bookcases, you can create soups and breads and things like that. It is a really fun resource management game. It kind of takes an approach to make it easy for everybody to understand, but there's still side effects to not getting the things that you want, but it's not penalizing or harmful to you. It is a very family-friendly game. It's a game that I would absolutely play with younger kids. My teenage kids actually really enjoyed this title this past year, and it's a game that I really feel is like comfort food to us. When we sit down with Creature Comforts, we sit down and it's just a relaxing night, get cozy, hang out with some people. The game plays in about an hour and a half to 2 hours, so younger kids may not have that attention span, but it's something phenomenal if you check it out. My number 10 game was Creature Comforts from Kids Table Board Gaming. The Guild of the Merchant Explorers from AEG is a game that was not on my radar at all. In fact, the title, I was like, what is that? It's a little wordy. But the first time I played this with my friend Bob, I knew I had to own a copy. We were at Southern Fried Gaming Expo a couple weeks after I played, and I saw a copy. I knew I had to own it. This is a family favorite of ours with 4 different maps to explore. This one has a lot of replayability. Players are basically using a flip out mechanic where they're going to see what landmass or what type of pattern they can build as they explore the land in front of them using cubes. And as you explore the land, you're going to find things like treasures which can be beneficial to you or can even be something where you save them for the end of the game in a set collection manner. Players are constantly trying to progress each and every one of the 4 rounds, and you can even explore some of the outer edges of your map, which have towers and different perks that you can get. One of the things that I love about it is that you don't lose your progress in between the rounds because as you explore an entire area of land, you get to put a small castle there, and that castle becomes a new starting point for a future round. I love the fact that they have these variable cards at that you get in each of the 4 rounds, which lend to doing some crazy movement as you go. So it's always going to be different. You're going to always have a different experience because you're going to have different options with those cards that roll out each time during rounds 1, 2, and 3, and then in round 4 you actually get to use any one of the first 3 cards, which is really cool. It's a great system. The Guild of the Merchant Explorers is a game that is going to continuously getting played in 2023. My number 8 game is Green Team Wins, and I'm smiling because this game has brought a lot of joy to our family and friend groups, that people that we've played games with. We actually have been playing Green Team Wins for a year and a half now in its earliest prototype phase with 25th Century Games. We got to demo it and check out the game, and it's just really special to us. Green Team Wins is probably the number one played party game for us in our family. We have made it a priority to play this on Christmas Eve each year with our immediate family, and it's a lot of fun. It's kind of a tradition now. Green Team Wins asks you a question. There are 15 questions during the course of the game, and they come in 3 different types. You have the choose one of 3. You have a fill in the blank, and you also have this or that, which makes you choose between 2 different options. Players are going to write down what they choose on their board. The players who answer in the majority are going to stay on the green team. If it's the first time that they're on the green team, they're going to receive 1 victory point. If they stay on the green team, they receive 2 victory points. Now, if you don't answer with the majority of the other people at the party, you're actually going to go to the orange team, and nobody wants to be on the orange team. Green Team Wins is an absolute joy to play. It is a fantastic icebreaker. It's a game that my wife has actually brought into her workplace, and all the people in her workplace have played it, and some of them have even bought copies for their own families. This is such a joy to play, and it's my number 8 game, and it's a party game that's going to stay on our shelf forever. This is bringing lots of memories for our family for years to come. My number 7 game is Wonderland's War from Druid City Games and Skybound Games. This massive box, I'm only showing you the box lid because in its deluxe version, it's like 150 pounds. My friend Bob bought a copy of it and showed us how to play, and Wonderland's War is fantastic. It is a great bag building game that introduces combat as you recruit members of the Wonderland community to fight on your side, whether you're the Cheshire Cat or you're Alice. I love all the elements of it. There's a lot of depth to the game because not only are you trying to defeat your enemies in Wonderland with members of the community as you fight at these different locations around the board, but you're also trying to build up an army, and you can even wager whether another member is going to win or lose when you're not directly in combat in that area. The artwork in this game is phenomenal. You have this table setting in the middle of the table that the players are going around and taking cards this way at the beginning of the round. It plays out in phases. I just can't say enough about Wonderland's War. The game is very intuitive once you get the handle of how things work. It's going to take you about 3 hours to play the very first time, but subsequent plays are going to be a lot smoother and a lot more fun. Wonderland's War is definitely deserves a place on my list, and that was my number 7 game for 2022. I'm a sucker for a good tile laying game, and Adam's Apple Games has published one of the best. This is Planet Unknown. You are playing to explore this planet and raise all of the abilities of your corporation as you explore. Players are going to use rovers to explore and actually retrieve meteorites. You're going to be able to find pods that have landed across your planet and score points that way. You're also going to get different abilities based on how you raise these different levels on the different tracks. Ultimately, you are trying to explore the planet and gain as many points based on this grid in front of you. You're going to score points in your columns and rows at the end of the game, but there's so many bonuses to be had during the course of the gameplay. I really enjoy how intuitive the game plays once you get to know the mechanics, and I greatly appreciate the replayability because each of the player mats have a common side and an asymmetric side. So you're going to be able to flip it over and you're going to be able to play as a different, play on a different planet, or you're going to be able to play with a different corporation or mix and match the two. It adds so much replayability to the game, and it plays different each and every time you play. I love the way that tiles are picked when there's the active player who turns the basically Lazy Susan full of tiles, and they're going to be able to pick theirs, the one that they choose, and everybody's going to get the one that their arrow is pointing to also. So you may not get the piece that you want at the time that you want, but you're going to have to make it work, because this is an unknown planet after all. Planet Unknown is one of our favorite games of 2022, and it's a game that you can actually play digitally on Sovereignty right now. Head over to sovereignty.com and check that game out. You can play digitally, see if this is a game for you, and then pick up a copy for yourself, because it is well worth it. My number 5 game of 2022 has to be Gartenbau. This game is dripping with style. It has this old school seed catalog look from the 1800s. I love the style of it. I love the beauty of the flowers and all the artwork. But in this game, the thing that I love most is the puzzly nature. Players are going to use wheelbarrows, their player tokens, around this rondel, and they're going to be gathering resources in sun and water tokens. And they're going to be taking seedlings that lay as the bed of their plants and their flowers. Now, from day one, we've only played the advanced version of the game, which have some really complex scoring methods, but it really, really is good. It's very fun to try to puzzle this thing out as you are building out your flower beds, and as you're looking and saying, how am I going to accomplish this, and how am I going to maximize my points over my opponents? This is such a fun game, and it's a game that plays well at 2 players up to 4 players. It goes relatively quickly for the type of game that it is, and the rondel mechanic works so well because people are going to block you out of certain locations that you really need at just the right time. I really enjoy Gartenbau, and it's a game that we're going to continue playing into 2023. This is something that's going to be a staple of our Sunday mornings and our Saturday mornings as me and Aaron sit down with a cup of coffee and play this gorgeous looking flower game. Gartenbau from 25th Century Games is my number 5 game of 2022. My number 4 game is My Father's Work from Renegade Game Studios. Now, I initially missed the Kickstarter for this beautiful game, but I'm thankful to have found a copy after the Kickstarter fulfilled. And what this game is the game that I had always wished for when I think about Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. When I think about that mad scientist game that I've always wanted in my collection, My Father's Work is that game. Now, this is an interactive game where players are going to actually use a tablet or some sort of digital device to guide them through the game. It's something that is necessary. So some people, that may be a turnoff for some people, but after our experiences with Destiny last year and Chronicles of Crime and things like that, we are fully involved with this stuff. We really enjoy the app integration, and Renegade Game Studios has done an excellent job of guiding players through 3 generations of mad scientists as you play throughout this game. The game's going to take you about 2 hours or so, but all throughout the game you're collecting these resources and using those resources to create experiments, and some of those experiments are actually going to anger the people around you. So you're going to have to deal with anger from the city people. But there's also this worker placement aspect where players are going out into the town to collect the resources that they need, visiting the churches and the bars in the different areas of town, and also doing some exploration as the generations progress. You're going to find some really cool secrets. The game comes with 3 different modules, and those modules are constantly changing based on the things that you do and the decisions that you make. They have done a fantastic job with My Father's Work, and is absolutely one of my favorite games of this past year, and it's the Frankenstein type game that I've always wanted in my collection. So check it out, My Father's Work from Renegade Game Studios. My number 3 game is Three Sisters from Motor City Gameworks, also published by 25th Century Games. This is a chunky, meaty roll and write for gamers, people who really enjoy the thinkiness of puzzling out the different options and gathering resources and triggering combos. are going to really enjoy Three Sisters. I connect with it a lot deeper because I really enjoy the aspect of gardening that they've included in the game. You're essentially running a backyard garden as you choose dice from this rondel in the middle of the table. As you choose these dice, the game gives you options to allocate those dice into your garden, whether it's watering or growing plants. You also can go to the shed and use those resources to upgrade different things that you do on your farm. Maybe you want to even put resources into your apiary and use those bees for something good. You've got so many different options in this game, and Three Sisters doesn't have to play the same each time because you can always choose a different path. If you are a fan of Fleet the Dice game, you are absolutely going to love Three Sisters. I enjoyed this theme far more than Fleet the Dice game, even though it is one of my favorites. This was a game that I constantly taught anytime we went to conventions and people wanted to know more about the game. I bust out my copy and taught a table full of people. We've actually had to grab more dice off of our shelf because we've played with more than the allotted amount. 4 players. We've had a table of 6 or 7 people who wanted to learn how to play. We made it work. Three Sisters is a phenomenal roll and write game from Motor City Gameworks, and something that sure enough, I'm going to run out of pads of paper eventually because I love this one so much. My number 2 game of 2022 is Longshot the Dice Game from Perplexed. I got a lot of questions this year about my need for horse racing and betting because I acquired 3 different horse racing games just this year alone. Longshot the Dice Game came to the table over and over and over this year. As soon as I learned how to play it, I immediately had to own a copy. I went out to my local Barnes & Noble and bought a copy for myself. Longshot the Dice Game plays up to 8 players, and players are going to roll the dice to see which horses race around the track and how fast they go. You also have horses that drift these horses that are rolled, and you're ultimately trying to have a horse in the top 3 standings of the game or bet on just the right horses with the right amount of money. The game plays really tight and it's a lot of fun. You can play with up to 8 players and it takes about 5 minutes to teach you all the mechanics of the game. I love the variability of it and how many options you have as you play through the game. No 2 races are the same, and it's a game that I can play over and over. It's so quick and easy to play this game. It takes about 30 minutes, and then when people are like, I get it, I understand, let's play this one again, I'm immediately on board. Longshot the Dice Game has been one of our family's favorites this year. I even taught my wife how to like the game. The first 2 times she played, she was like, I don't know. And when she was playing at larger player counts, she was absolutely sold out for it. So Longshot the Dice Game, my number 2 game of 2022. Now, my number 1 game of 2022 is actually one of our most played games of the year. This is a game that came out after dinner when we had people over at the house. This is a game that traveled with us when we went to board game days at different locations around the community. Acropolis from Gigimec Games and Hachette Games is a game that we were blown away by at Origins 2022. This is a game that just plays so smoothly from the minute you take it out of the box. The components are excellent. It's not too heavy and it's not too intimidating for new players. I love that players are building up their own ancient cities as they layer tiles on top of tiles and deciding ultimately what things are going to score the most by drafting tiles from the middle of the table. Players are going to earn rock tokens as they cover up quarries in their city. This way they can afford tiles that are further in on the drafting line. This is such a smooth playing game. It's so quick to teach. It takes about 25 to 30 minutes to play, but toward the end of the game, it always gets down to the last 2 rounds where players are sitting there saying, okay, I've got to math out what is my best option here? What am I going to get the most points for? And in those moments when you're thinking about all the different options that you have on the table and you're really considering what you're supposed to do in those last couple of turns, the game is just enough thinkiness for our entire family. It's something that is going to continue to be a staple of game nights for years to come. I would put this in the same realm as things like Century Spice Road and Azul, games that constantly come to the table, and they're just so accessible, and Acropolis is that game, and that's why it has to be my number one game of the year. This is a game that I can play with my teenage kids, and it's a game that I can teach a person who has only played Scrabble and Yahtzee in the past, and they're going to understand this game, and they're going to be able to have a good time with it. I really enjoyed Acropolis, and it's a game that, if you haven't picked it up already, this is absolutely one that should be in your collection. And that's why it's my number one game of 2022. I really appreciate you checking out this video, and it means a lot to us to have your support. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends if they're looking for board games for their family and their friend groups. We would love to share more games with you. Head over to oneboardfamily.com and follow us on all the different social media accounts at One Board Family. We would love to hang out more. Join us on a live stream sometime on this channel, and be sure to stay tuned for even more gaming goodness. Until next time, we'll see you at the table.